Thank you for joining us. Today we're here with Seamus and Eli. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome
Hi,
to
thanks for having
the show.
us.
Tell us a bit about you. Go ahead, Eli.
yeah, I'll start. I'm Eli Bernstein. I'm one of the producers. I'm the producer of Growing Boy. I grew up in Seattle, huge film lover. Just always kind of was a big cinephile and wanted to make films, and went to film school in upstate New York, Ithaca College, where I actually met Seamus, and started working on. After that, I started working post-pandemic New York industry sets, TV shows, miniseries, doing a lot of assistant director work, and then kind of got started in making my own work on the side, some directing, some producing, some fiction, some nonfiction, some kind of a blend of in between. But I really just like to make all sorts of ranges of things.
Hi, I'm Seamus Mulhern. I'm the writer and director of Growing Boy. I grew up in upstate New York, like sort of Cortland, Syracuse area. And like Eli, I went to Ithaca College, studied writing for film and television. So my background is mostly in screenwriting. However, after moving to New York and working for a while in the film and television industry as a production assistant, I reconnected with Eli and sort of decided to embark on making my first short film together. And that short film is Growing Boy, which is sort of a fable about a young man who, after being mocked in sort of a public setting by some other men, decides to get an experimental leg extension surgery, which is a real thing, and sort of has something of a breakdown without getting into details, but his life sort of falls apart, comes together depending on how you interpret it. But yeah, it's just sort of a dark comedy that we were all just really excited to make and interested in the topic of.
All right, so I guess we'll start. You can ask anyone you want. What made you want to be a filmmaker? What was that first moment?
I mean, I've always loved film, but I think the first time I was really cognizant of filmmaking as a concept and what directors do. Um, I did a school project where I read about Steven Spielberg, and I had already enjoyed like E.T. I think that's why I picked the book out, but I just remember being very immersed in just his whole journey and his whole process, and seeing like it was just my first time learning what a storyteller did in like a cinematic form. And from there, I just sort of became obsessed, really just watched any movie I could. Just tried to seek out classics and stuff. And I've just been writing ever since I was a kid. So uh, really just fell in love with film at a young age, and haven't really stopped with that sort of connection.
I think for me, I was like very similar. Like you could not keep me away from the screen when I was a kid, and I was so obsessive and trying to just like consume as much as I possibly could. Certainly, stuff I was not old enough to watch that I was like sneaking behind my parents' backs. But I mean, I definitely didn't consider myself as a kid like I was not like, oh, I really need to be a director or a filmmaker. Like the creation of it was not really like in my bones. I didn't feel it. And then I think in high school, I had an amazing French teacher who showed me all sorts of this like incredible French cinema. And she showed in our class, actually, we watched Michael Haneke's Cachet. And, the end of that entire film is just one of my favorite movies. But like that film, watching it, I remember like being for the first time incredibly conscious of like this power of filmmaking, not just watching it or feeling it, but like you can do something that changes the way an audience feels, or you can really like put your own mark out there in a radical way. And I think that was when I first started thinking about making stuff myself.
All right, so how long have you been doing this? Once again, anyone you like.
Well, let's see. I've directed two short films. I've produced now three, soon to be four, and I'm about to actually direct a film in a few weeks. But some of that is like in film school, and a lot of that is like helping out on other friends' projects. So I would say like in terms of like really committing to it and doing it in not even like a full-time capacity, but in like a quote unquote serious way, even though I don't necessarily like using that term. I think about 2 years. but I've been working in the film industry, like in New York, for about 3 years.
This is my first, I would like Eli, this is my first, I would call like real, or like one of my first real projects. This is the first thing I've really embarked upon directing as like a serious endeavor. I had like, made videos in high school like a lot of people did, but this is the first thing we sort of financed and tried to produce as like our own series project. I've been writing scripts though since like late grade school. I think I've always aspired to uh write just in general. I found so much power in just like being the like main arbiter and storyteller of something. So I had always been writing screenplays, and all throughout college I had been doing that, always with like an interest in directing, but I guess sort of I was waiting for a story I was very confident in tackling before I jumped into it, I guess. But now that the Band-Aid's sort of ripped off, I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I love directing. It's the best.
And so friends and family, when you said, okay, I'm going to be a filmmaker, where they say, oh no, not till after you have your law degree or engineering degree, or were they like, yeah, go for it if that's your passion? Which way did it go?
I'm actually very lucky that my not only have my parents really shown support, but when I exhibited interest in film and television, it seemed like they kind of pushed me into that direction. I think my parents, um, I think they're very big on just like following bliss. I think that's sort of how they sort of fell into their careers. My mom's a lawyer, and my father runs his own company, and I think they, you know, they were sort of hustlers at a young age, and kind of found comfort in, even when they weren't as successful as they wanted to be at any given time. They were very big on like following dreams, and then eventually paid off for them. So I think they very much pushed that onto us. Um, and still to this day, I mean, they were very supportive of Growing Boy, even when they didn't fully understand it. It took a while for them to understand that the film was supposed to be a comedy. I explained the plot to them over and over, and they were like, I don't see what the joke is really. But even still, they were very excited, and they wanted to see every cut of it. And they were like, in a private setting, it's a private Vimeo link, but they would bring their friends in to like watch it when I was there and stuff like that. And so they're very, yeah, my parents were personally very supportive.
That felt good when they did that, didn't it?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, at first it was unbearable, but at the end of it, when you sort of get over the initial shock of it, it was, it was beautiful. Shout out my parents, I guess. But
I'm
shout
sorry,
out
Eli,
mom
I
and
cut you
dad.
off.
No, no, you're good. I was gonna I was laughing because it's like my answer is kind of the same as Seamus's in a way. Like my parents have always been incredibly supportive, but I would say in a like my parents are they're doctors, they're practitioners that met in residency together. And my two brothers both are very science and math minded and like incredibly smart people. And I was just always this completely different kid with it, like we didn't really know where it all came from. But like they were always so incredibly supportive of me and sort of allowed me to pursue creative things. It was never this pressure of you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. But definitely coming from a Jewish family too, where there's this generational emphasis on education and betterment and everything. Yeah, I definitely have like the self-imposed pressure of like you didn't become a doctor, like you didn't do that. But as much as I kind of wish I could blame it on my parents, but they're actually lovely and incredibly supportive.
Okay, cool. Cool. All right, I guess my next question is, do you have your tribe, your group of filmmaker friends that you have as your group where you are, the tribe, as they say? Do you have that?
I would say I feel like I'm getting there. I work I work with Seamus, who is just like this brilliant screenwriter and has this just
Oh,
incredible tone of like no, but seriously, like he
yeah,
he
yeah,
he has like
yeah,
these
yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. But
dark comedies, but like truly social undercurrents. And he's just one of the smartest writers I've ever met, and a great director too. But I also have my friend Arman, who I produce with him, and he makes Persian American art cinema. and I have some friends that are in documentary that I kind of like to work with, and then I have my own work. So I like to do a lot of different things. So I don't know if I don't even know if like I feel like I've been really lucky to find very recently, especially like the past year, a lot of different people that want to make a lot of different things. But in a way, I kind of aspire to never truly find a tribe. Like I kind of am always, I'd love to just always be finding new, exciting, different things to make. Like I never want to feel like I'm making the same thing.
What do you want to be? Woody Allen? I'll never belong to a club that would have me as a member.
Yeah, pretty much like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what he wants. Yeah. No, just to return the favor, and I mean this in full sincerity. I don't want to come across as insincere. The greatest decision I made in the production of this film, creative or otherwise, is I sent it to Eli because we had reconnected during a PA job, and he was just great at giving practical advice, but also just great encouragement. I think we kind of trade places on who is the optimist and who is the pessimist in the group, but I think that there was never a point of doubt at any moment during the production, because Eli had assured us that it was going to be fine. We were going to find a solution. He's the greatest producer in the world.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I mean that. Great things are happening. But to answer your question in terms of the tribe, sort of the blessing and the curse of working in film and TV in New York is that everyone is kind of working on something. It's sort of a glass half full, half empty. I think a lot of people view it in like a negative way, that there's competition, but really it's like you throw a pebble and you find someone who is just incredibly talented in whatever field they've chosen, whether it's sound or camera or, electric. And we've gotten very lucky, Eli and I, through working here, that we've gotten a lot of connections, and just we've met a lot of people on the job who are just willing to work on our project together. I wouldn't say I have a tribe specifically, aside from like, close friends I went to school with, and Eli and people I've met through Eli. But you know, I would say it's the same. It's constantly evolving, and the longer you work here, the more people you meet. It's more of a network, I'd say, than a tribe.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if I have an inner circle yet, but I
there
would
is
like
though,
to.
like we do have, I mean, like just to name a few people from our crew, like Robin, our sound mixer, or Autumn, our
Mhm.
gaffer, or like Aaron, our director of photography. Those are all people who are friends and are like brilliant crew members, and like I want to bring them onto every single project ever.
Yeah,
But there's scheduling and stuff. So like it's heartbreaking to think like, what if I don't have Robin doing sound on a movie one day? But
yeah.
it will
I got
probably
to start
come.
over with someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you guys decide to make this film? They have all the ideas in the world. Why this film?
The idea, it kind of, I was talking to a good friend of mine, Andrew Ingber, and we were kind of very we were not in a good we were very spitefully like working our TV jobs and stuff like that, and just kind of trading blows of like, what we need to make something that we could make and we could be excited about, and like, what's like a straightforward narrative. And you kind of end up in a situation where you're like coming up with ideas that are almost jokes, like to make the other person laugh. But then eventually I stumbled on this leg extension surgery, just because, I fell down the Reddit rabbit hole, and, I just got really interested in what seemed like this crazy new operation that people were getting. And I sort of came up with the story, just the general beats of it, just to make my friends laugh, basically. But the more I sat with it, um, the more the more it stayed with me, and I knew it was kind of an idea I needed to write, and I think would have been feasible to produce in our current level. So, I spent a few weeks writing it, writing and revising it, and just trading it with friends, and then I sent it to just a couple of people that could give advice on producing. And yeah, no, it was just it really was a thing of like, it just made sense in the moment. Like there was nothing really more complicated than just like, I wrote it, and I felt it, that it needed to be the first thing that I made.
And I'll say that I was in we were both sort of in a place in our lives where we had been working in the industry, and we're like, okay, we really want to start branching out and making our own projects that we have a lot more, creative control in. And
Mhm.
Seamus sent me the script, and I like read it and really liked it. And even when I really liked it, I was like, oh yeah, I want to go meet with him and talk about it. And I remember going to meet him on the Upper West Side, and like, not it wasn't in my head like I'm gonna produce this, like I'm gonna help him make this. But I was just like, I want to tell him how much I like it and how I think he should totally make it, and he totally can, and like it's doable and it's funny and it's like dynamic and interesting, and it's not really something I've seen before. And I think that in that meeting, he and I were just going back and forth about it so much, and he was both so excited about it and also like very receptive to different ideas or thoughts. It wasn't like this is my locked in vision and I need you to come and do the logistical stuff. He is one of the greatest collaborators, and I think that we kind of just like we're talking about it so much, and in that meeting I was just like, so yeah, I want to produce this. I'd like to do it. Like I kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
changed.
yeah.
I kind of got myself hyped up for it just by talking about it in that first meeting.
Yeah, I to add on to that, it's just like part of the reason it felt right to make was that I just found a great collaborator. Like I felt like in that moment, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say like, oh my God, like it's a cosmic connection or something, but I just remember like it was like not only like we got to make this, but I was like, why aren't we friends already? Like why aren't we like hanging out all the time? And
Yeah.
yeah, it just made sense. It just made everything came together.
What was the hardest part of making this movie, and what was the most fun part of making this movie?
Mm.
I know my answer
Yeah,
instantly.
you can go. You
I'll
can
give
go.
you time, Seamus. So we shot one of the days we shot Memorial Day weekend. We were shooting of 2023, and we shot it right in this park, this playground on Marcy and Madison in Bedford-Stuyvesant, about a block away from my apartment. Which is also we also shot in my apartment for the film. And I've done a lot of location shooting in New York City, and we were obviously a really skeleton crew, micro budget. And I was like, from the very beginning, we wanted to use this location. And I also said, by the way, this is a neighborhood that I am, gentrifying and like we're living in. And, this is like there's a rich culture and history in Bed-Stuy. And the last thing I want from this production is to get in anyone's way, make like ruin anyone's day.
Yeah.
We will be adaptable to everyone around us. We want to be making this film as like a part of the community, not sort of like as you like in some sets are really great, but sometimes you get on sets and you're in the middle of New York City and people get curious or they walk around and everyone's like, oh, get him out of here. And I just like didn't want that attitude. I didn't want that. So we showed up to have this full day, our biggest day with like stunts and all this stuff. And there is a full on basketball tournament with like loudspeakers setting up. And my sound mix, everyone is like looking at me like, oh God. And I'm like, all right, no, it's great. It's great. We're gonna go over. And I went over and started talking to people, and everyone that day was incredible, and it got busier and busier the whole day. But like, I only had I think like two conversations actually about logistics with anyone around us that day, because it got to the point where like when we would start to record dialogue, the people that were playing music at the basketball court, they would be watching our like boom op, and when he took the boom out, they would pause the music without us even asking them to. And I told them, I was
Mhm.
like, I don't want to ask them to pause the music, and they would just do it for us. And then you know anyway, so that was like the most challenging thing, became also the most fun thing. And I will say that there is a prosthetic, a pretty gory prosthetic used in the film. And when we were chasing the end of that day, losing the light, there were some kids who were shooting a music video, um, and they asked if they could use our lead actor with his gory prosthetic in the video. And I like looked at them, and I looked at our Jasper, and Jasper was of course so excited and down to do it. And I said, listen, we need like 20 minutes. We're gonna wrap this whole film, and then you can have him. And they waited around, and like they were so excited. They just had we saw them just making the funniest shots with our lead
Yeah.
actor. That was like the most fun for me.
I agree with Eli. The hardest part was day three. To both because of what he said, where it's like it was a lot more crowded than we expected, and we were dealing with a lot more, New York traffic, that sort of stuff. And also just that was the day, not to give away the plot, but there's an action sequence in the I'd say the ending of it. And just that whole day, it was like the most complicated sequence by far, just in terms of just blocking and making it look nice and make sense. And it was my first time really directing action on that scale. So just logistically, I would say that was the most difficult part. Not really an unpleasant part. It was just like that was like the biggest problem solving section, I would say, of just this entire production. In terms of the best part, I would say I'd say the post-production process was just so rewarding. I mean, we basically, me, Eli, and our editor Yesham, who just is incredible, just an incredible talent. Just we all hunkered down in Eli's basement and basically just hammered out what became the picture lock cut of Growing Boy. And it was a lot of like trading blows. It was a lot of creative blows, and it was a lot of just inviting people in, sort of de facto test screenings. We would send it to people. We'd send it to parents, cousins, family members, friends, and just really got a wide range of opinion. And it was really just a slow build to the point where we realized it was like good and we were satisfied with it. And that was just probably the most rewarding and just like creatively intoxicating part of the entire process. It was just such a good time. I still think about it to this day. It was just one of the best times. It was great. It was great.
Cool, cool. All right, so
Yeah.
in the indie film world, we all know we're not going to get rich and buy private jets and be Taylor Smith flying around Europe and everything.
I
So
don't know. We'll see.
so what would you call success in the indie film world? What does it look like?
I would say, to be super cliche and like reference another filmmaker that I look up to, I think that Steven Soderbergh is someone who I have just such an enormous amount of respect for, who obviously did, make no bones about it, studio films and attained studio big budget status, but sort of then went back to his sort of indie roots. And I just think when someone is just continuously able to make projects and projects that they are what they want to make, without sort of that creative sacrifice, but it doesn't really matter the budget level. I think just the ability to continue making things, and also the continuous creative drive to do that too, because that takes a lot of nourishing too. Like, to me, that's the success that I look for, is even for it to not be, you're right, you're not going to get rich from it, but to be able to do that as a career, or even not as a paying career, even just to be able to do it in your life, that to me is success.
Seamus?
Yeah. I would agree with Eli just in terms
you
of
can
like,
say money.
I mean, I would like money. I think we would all like money, but I think more importantly, just having the ability to go to at that and just like be able to make the stuff that you're excited about. And I think in addition to that, just I guess the word for this is confidence, but just gaining sort of a deeper form of self-expression. I think just the main goal of evolving as a filmmaker is just like not just like, oh, the confidence to like put certain ideas out there, but just, I don't know, realizing that there are other ways to express deeper ideas, and just sort of a constant sense of evolution. To quote a filmmaker I like, who was quoting another Kurosawa, Scorsese was saying, like, Kurosawa said, like, at the end of his life, he was like, I just realized what cinema could do, and now it's too late. And I think that to me is just, I mean, in any field, it's just like that's success, just constant learning, constantly getting better, and just never feeling like there's a cap on the abilities of the art form. Just never feeling like, you've done enough. You're always being in pursuit of like betterment. I think that to me is success.
Cool. So somebody comes along and says, Uncle Eli, Uncle Seamus, I want to be a filmmaker just like you. What would be your words of advice? What would you say?
I would say don't do it. First of
Yeah.
all. I would no, but
go.
I run, but I mean that's like the joke everyone says. But I do think that like my genuine advice to anyone would be, I think what Seamus just said about self-expression is very true. Of like, don't try to say anything other than what you want to say. Like, don't try to be anyone other than yourself. but also understand that like genuine commitment and like pursuit, like when people are like, what made you decide to be a filmmaker? Sometimes I just say like a sickness. I think like, who would choose this life? It's so, there's
Yeah.
so much uncertainty and risk and diminishing reward, and certainly in a financial sense or industry sense if you look at it, but I think that you just, if you love it and if you like just feel like you have to do it, that commitment is really what you need.
I wouldn't say don't. I would be like, why are you asking me? I'd be like, obviously the self, like, don't hold yourself to the standard of like, am I doing what everyone else is doing? Do what you think is right, because that's gonna inherently be more interesting. But also just like, I think I spent a long time like sort of being caked in. I don't want to say, no, it was fear. Just like, I think the time I spent not directing was just like, I don't want to make something bad. Like, I don't want to go through like the turmoil of like, the learning curve of like making stuff I know sucks, and then eventually I'll make something good. And, you kind of have to like just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, nobody cares. Nobody's really thinking about you that deeply. Like, don't get caught up in this game of like thinking, people are perceiving like your artwork at this level. And even if they are, who cares? Like, they're not doing anything. Why are they focused on you in like this negative way? Just do the work. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Just do it.
Okay, well, that's it for my questions, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.